School? Three? Homeschoolers are like, every day is school, man. Just kidding. Just kidding. It is so good to see you guys. I've been out for like 2 weeks, I think. One was not my fault. One, I suppose, was my fault. I got really, really sick at like 2 o'clock last Sunday. I was like, Rachel, run youth for me, I'm gonna go home and die. And Dane was too, and we texted each other like, I'm in the bathroom again. He's like, me too. And that didn't happen. Friendship is weird. So I have a message I've been really excited about that I wanted to tell you guys about. It's called Out of My Element. And I noticed something about this phrase a long time ago. Whenever you get told like, yeah, this will be really something like out of your elements, or when somebody uses that, it usually has kind of a weird connotation to it. It usually has something that maybe isn't even the most positive. But to kind of start off the night, have you ever been totally out of your elements? My bet is yes. But let me give you guys like an example. So for me, the first time that I super remember this, as like a kid, that certainly happened, but I didn't care because I was like, kids don't really get embarrassed. You know, like I see my kids running, they'll play and just smash their face on the ground. And like if it was a teenager, that'd be horrendous. But they get up, they're like, that was weird, yay, and they run away. And like in the 7th grade, I moved to a brand new city and a brand new school. And I lived with my mom all my life, and then I moved in with my dad. And like the first week they said, you need to get braces because your teeth are crazy. And I was like, okay. And so they put braces in, and they said, your jaw is also messed up, so we're going to put in a palate extender. Do you guys know what that is? It's terrible. Basically, it just wrenches your mouth wider. And so they put this in. I go to school for the first time. I'm meeting all these brand new people in a brand new city. And if you've never had one of those, you basically talk like your tongue is too big for your mouth. And so people are like, what's with this guy? Can he talk normally? Like, hey, what's up, everybody? And like, it was by far the most stressful week, I think, of my young life at that point. And I remember just feeling like I'm uncomfortable no matter what happens right now. Like if I meet someone, I'm uncomfortable. If I get left alone, I'm uncomfortable. Like nothing was really good for like a month. So like, have you ever had an experience like that where like, man, when is this going to end? Maybe right now. You're like, Craig, when is this over? I hope not. So when it comes to being out of your element, it's almost universally viewed as like, oh gosh, I gotta get through this. I gotta endure this. I gotta like really bite the bullet and just get through this. But I want to give you kind of a counter idea tonight. What if being out of your element became something that you really look forward to? In fact, something that not only like is something good in your life, but something that can be like completely awesome. So let me give you a few examples. So when we hear the term out of your element, we think about something negative. But let me give you guys maybe something different. A first date. A lot of you have been on a first date. A lot of you haven't yet. First date, by its nature, is out of your element. Especially if it's your first date ever. It can be weird. It can be good. Normally, it's actually really, really good just to have it so that you can say like, well, that was terrible and the worst. I suppose they can't get worse from here. And so like, your first date is passed. Mine was at Starbucks. Yeah, it was a great place. She said, do you want to go to Starbucks? And I said, that's my favorite place. That was a lie. And then she said, what's your favorite drink there? And I said, oh, that's so hard to answer. What's yours? And she told me it, and I said, that's crazy. That's my favorite drink. That was a lie. And then we sat down and we chatted, and I sipped it, and it was made in chocolate, and it was fine. But like, I don't know what it was this day, some kind of mocha thing. And like, I didn't drink coffee either. And so I just started like when you don't drink coffee at all, and then you put it inside of you, and it's like, I'm gonna run. I think maybe I love you, or I'm gonna die. So that was a really bad choice for a first date. But here's the thing, guys. That was an awesome first date. It was a really fun memory. We ended up dating for a little while, and then when it came to like my next first date, I was like, okay, I know how this goes. I know how it feels, and I'm ready to do this. and it became like something that was actually looked forward to. Or maybe driving. Who here is driving? Like learner's permit and up? Yeah? A few? Okay. Cool. Someone failed? Yeah. So like, do you remember the first time you got behind the wheel? Like really got behind the wheel, that feeling? Like that is an out of your element feeling. I remember I drove my dad's Ford Explorer in a parking lot. That memory is baked into my brain. It's not going anywhere. And I just smiled really big, and not because I wanted to drive really fast, but because I was just like, this is it, we're here. My dad's like, stop smiling, stop it. I'm like, he's like, and then he's like, and you're also driving slow. Why are you smiling and driving slow? I'm like, and like that memory is there for me. And here's the thing, guys, that was really out of my element, and it was super frightening, and there were like some bad moments in traffic where I went forward too fast, or I didn't quite stop when I was supposed to, and so there's all these missteps and all that, but here's the thing, I never gave up driving. I was like, all right, I'm doubling down on this, I'm gonna do a better job. And maybe making a new friend. Maybe like, for some of you this comes really naturally, some of you it's a little bit harder. But you know that moment when you meet somebody, and just all of a sudden, you get that feeling like, oh man, I like this person. I'm gonna ask them, you know what, we're gonna be serious. You wanna be my friend? It doesn't go like that, I'm just kidding, you guys. Like making a new friend can be so exciting, it's so very cool. Discovering a new talent, discovering that you're good at something. Maybe not right away, but you get that feeling of like, man, I might be really good at this. I might be really good at singing. I might be really good at writing. I might be something like that, but it's so hard putting yourself out there. It's so hard because it's an out of your element feeling. Or maybe something a little bit harder, helping someone who is hurt. I remember the first time I was leaving youth group and I saw somebody sitting outside the church and they were crying. And I felt like, I can't just walk past this person, but also I don't really know them. And what am I supposed to say here? Like, hey, stop crying. You know, and like that was frightening and it was scary, but I just knew I had to say something. And so I sat down and I had a not helpful conversation, but I was trying. You know, and like it's one of those moments that like is totally out of my element. My bet is that you guys have had a few of those as well. Or maybe something even harder than that. Maybe being a friend someone needs. And by that, I mean that can be a really big extension of you have a good friendship, you have someone that you really care about, and they're messing up. They're making bad decisions, and you have to be the friend that someone needs there. Meaning, you have to say, I think you're making bad choices. I want to help direct you. I want to help curb this behavior. So, like, to me, there's the whole list of being out of your element is really, really long, and we could spend all night talking about it. But just, I want to get you guys' heads moving a little bit. Being out of your elements is something that grows you. Sometimes we don't feel like being grown. But also, once we do grow, we don't want to go back. I love that all of these things have happened to me, that I've gotten better at them as time has gone on. Maybe a lot of you guys have already hit it here, but once you learn how to drive, once you learn how to make friends, once you learn how to have hard conversations, you're never again, I don't want to do those things. I want to go back to who I was. It's a regression. And so tonight, when we talk about getting out of your element, I want to talk to you guys about one particular area of being out of your element. And this comes up really, really big in the book of Romans. So the book of Romans is written by a guy named Paul. And Paul is like basically like a rock star of the New Testament, where he writes a ton of it. He writes to churches. Whenever you see a book like that says Romans, he's not writing to like the literal Romans. He's writing to a church in Rome, and so he's helping direct them because churches are brand new here. People are figuring out how to be Christians. They've been Jewish people most of their life, and then new people start joining in. And even here, it jumps in. And he starts talking about Jewish people and Greek people. And for some of us reading this, we kind of switch off because a lot of us are not Jewish and a lot of us are not Greek people, and we don't understand the difference here. To explain it a little bit more, what's happening here is that Jewish temple and their faith has been like a people as well as a religion for basically the known like history for thousands of years. It's been the Jewish people. But then Jesus Christ came and changed everything. And after that, people started saying, I want to join this movement. I want to start following Jesus. I want to figure out who this is. I want to join this. And so the Jewish people are like, well, we don't just join. We've got like a thing. And I know you think you're a part of us, but it's kind of different. And so the Greeks and the Romans and everybody wanted to join, they were stressing out about it. So like in this moment here, Paul is writing to them and says, you need to calm down. It doesn't actually say that in the Bible. That's what it actually says. It says, for the scripture says, everyone who believes in him will not be put to shame. For there is no distinction between Jew and Greek. So he's starting out here saying, like, listen, there used to be a distinction. There was a big issue here. But right now going forward, you guys, there is no more problem with this. And that extends, we're not just talking about Jew and Greek people, we're talking about South American, African, Asian, Antarctican people, name the people, it fits into this category. There's no longer a distinction here. And then he says, for the same Lord is Lord of all, bestowing his riches on all who call on him. Now, to you guys, this might be old news, but to them, this was mind-blowing. Because before it used to be the God of the Jewish people. And now they're saying, wait, hold on. This extends out to everybody. And so their mind was like, oh, like some people, I don't know if they loved it when they first heard that. Maybe they were really, really excited about it. But this was really, really big news. And then he ends this thought with this. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. So that's where he's starting here. He's saying every single person that was, is, and yet to come, are, if they call on the Lord, if they call on his name, they can be saved. And so this information was like, messes up their culture, messes up who they are. And so the Jewish people, you guys, they're comfortable. They are comfortable, and this is their life. And so now they're saying, hey, we're going to let everybody in on our secret club. We're not going to be like God's special chosen people anymore. We're going to let everybody in. And so they had to unlearn that idea. And to say that it was uncomfortable, like they had way more than cultural differences. Like we're talking like, we know they're talking the same language as these people. And now like we all worship Jesus. Like this is really hard for us. And then Paul kind of addresses their heart. He addresses where they're feeling right there. And he says this. How then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? So right here, he's looking at them and saying, like, listen, this isn't just for you guys anymore. This is for everybody. But how is everybody supposed to hear about this if they have no one to tell them? If they have no one to be able to write this for them, no one to talk to them about it, how are they supposed to know about, like, they're allowed in unless they know about it? I always think about it like, imagine downtown for one day only, every single restaurant offers free food. And you can go to downtown Nashville and have whatever you like, but also nobody says anything about it. Like the next day, it's like, oh yeah, you missed free food day. I'm like, what? I'm sorry to make the chubby guy thing, guys. It's what I think about sometimes. And so then he like hammers it home, and I love this. This is like one of my favorite things that Paul has ever said, and I really hope you guys remember this next part. He says, and how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news. And I always think this is kind of a fun analogy or kind of fun way of saying it. He's like, listen, your feet are looking beautiful right now. Those toes, they look great. Your sandals, perfect. He's not actually commenting on their feet. He's saying the feet that carry this person that is doing what I'm talking about here. He's saying how beautiful. And it said like it is written this way. It's been in the scripture already. How beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news. Meaning, as we as Jewish people, or we as Greek people, or we as whoever people, if we hear this amazing and good news, if we hear this thing that used to be way different, and now Jesus has come and changed everything, how good is it if we don't sit on this information? How good is it that we can go out and do this? And this is where we end up losing most people in the church. Do you know why? Because it means that they have to be uncomfortable for a little bit. It means they have to go out of their element. It means that they have to go and say something to somebody. It means that they have to initiate a conversation that might be uncomfortable. it means that they have to be out of their element. And that's really, really hard for them. It's hard for me, it's hard for you, probably. But here's the thing, guys. Everybody needs to hear about the gospel of Jesus Christ. To give you guys an example, right now, in this room, you were either invited here by somebody, maybe your parents forced you to be here, maybe you found us online, but everybody in here has experienced somebody, or they're currently doing this. Well, let me explain. Somebody said, I want you to come to my church. Maybe someone texted you, maybe someone called you, and someone said, I want you to come to youth group. I had a friend who invited me to church, and I said, I don't know, man. I cuss. I don't really know if I'm a church guy, and I really like rated R movies. And they're like, no, it's fine. Come to church. And I was like, no. And like, I waited about a year, and he would invite me periodically. And it actually became kind of a fun game. I'm like, hey man, you invited me to church? And eventually he's like, I don't think you're gonna come. And I was like, hey, come on, invite me. I wanna say no. and then a really pretty girl invited me, and I said yes. And that's not what I'm telling you guys to do. What I'm saying is, when enough people asked me, when enough people like kind of pursued me, and then I started hearing this story. I started hearing this because the whole time I kept saying, I'm not good enough to be one of you Christians. I'm not a really good guy. I'm a guy that has a lot of problems. And then someone said, no, you don't understand. Everybody has these problems. Everybody has made decisions that they're not happy with. Everybody has had a thing called sin in their life where they've hated their parents. They've been horrible to people. They think terrible, nasty thoughts about each other. And then my youth pastor said this to me. He said, listen, God is not concerned with what your past was. He's saying, what he wants right now is that you start following Jesus Christ. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, so this thing called sin is in our life, and we can't get rid of it. That was the problem that the Jewish people had for so long, is they kept trying to follow the law more perfectly. But they kept trying to be as good as possible. And then after a little while, God said, the only way that I can reestablish this relationship with you is by sending my son, Jesus. And so Jesus came and lived a life that had no sin in it. And it stressed people out. They didn't know what to do with him, because all of us have sin. All of us have stuff in our life that we just are not in command of, and we make terrible choices. So when they meet Jesus, they're either blown away by him or they hate him, because it's kind of like that person that's just so perfect that you just hate them because they're amazing, and or you just want to be around them. And this happened to a crazy degree with Jesus. And so when he says, I'm going to pay this debt, I am going to make it so that I'm going to offer up my life for theirs. By theirs, he means everybody. He means every single person. He says, I lived a blameless life, but I'm going to give it up so that everybody who's going to be can so I can pay their way to heaven. And then all it really takes to accept this is to follow Jesus. It's to say, like, God, I accept this. I want Jesus to be that in my life. I want to follow him. And then this news, this information, what I just told you guys, has absolutely the ability to change everybody's life. Everybody you know, that has the ability to change their life. So in the book of Romans here, Paul is saying that bit of information, everybody needs to at least hear about it, at least know about it. They might not react to it, they might not care. They might say, I'm living a fine life, I don't want Jesus. That's really sad, but they might react that way. And then the next part here is that all followers of Jesus need to spread the gospel. Because guys, we get this amazing information and then we sit on it because we don't like being out of our element. We don't like making people uncomfortable. We don't like saying, hey, there's sin in your heart. There's this guy named Jesus that can change things. And guys, all I can tell you is this. I am so happy that my friend bothered me. I'm so happy that my older brother invited me to youth group. I'm so happy that people stepped out of their element to tell me to come to church. And it took a lot of times, and sometimes it got uncomfortable and awkward. And guys, everyone in this room, if you guys follow Jesus, please think about this. How beautiful are your feet? when is the last time that you brought this information to somebody else? If this is your first time hearing this information, if this is the first time you really thought about following Jesus or not, in a little while we're going to break into small groups. That is an excellent time to talk to your small group leader about it, talk to somebody next to you about this. Last week in middle school, one of the boys just raised his hand and said, I want to follow Jesus. What do I do to make that happen? And they just ground to a halt and they said, let's talk about that right now. And he's getting baptized next week. In fact, all of you should come down. Before we get too far into that, let's kind of take a look at a little bit more in the how category. But how do we do this? Great, that's cool. So first of all, I want you guys to know everyone is searching to reconnect with God. And by reconnect, I mean at one point in our history, we were connected with God. It didn't last very long. It was Adam and Eve time. And then sin entered the world really quick. Basically, Adam and Eve said, God, I think you're great and you're cool and all that, but I'm going to make my own decisions. And I'm going to go ahead and do what's best for me. And so sin entered the world. And God and us as people have had that in between them and us. Sin has removed us from him. The only thing that can bring us back to God is Jesus Christ. Now, this is not a secret to be kept. Our beautiful feet need to be moving. Your beautiful feet need to be moving. How do we do this? So first, let's talk about being invitational. Now I want you guys to know if you Google search invitational, that dude's face appears. And there's way more professional ones, but I decided to go with this guy because that's funny. So the first thing is making sure that everyone you know hears about it. Now I always say this, and I want you guys to know this, I'm not saying go to school and climb up on top of a locker and be like, hear me, wayward sinners, for all of you are doomed. That's an Aaron Jones approach, and it works, but it's okay if it's not you guys. What I mean is there someone in your life? Is there someone at home? My older brother invited me to youth group. He didn't even want